It's good to be back. It's been ages. So if I'm not mistaken, my last video on my Zero was on the 4th of July in 2021. So almost more or less 2 years. Lately, I did get some questions about the current state of my Zero, so this video is just a small update on everything I did with my Zero and how it's holding up. So I have my little smart sheet here and we'll start from the top. So first off, some of you may have noticed by now, I have different mirrors. I have installed new mirrors with installed daytime running lights and indicator lights. And this brings also one challenge. Because of regulations here in Germany, I am required to dim the daytime running lights when I activate the indicator. So I have also installed a new controller that sits behind my headlight unit. And this will dim the daytime running lights. I can also show it. This will dim the daytime running lights when I'm indicating. I don't know if you can see that good, but let's see. That's better. So if I indicate, you'll see it dims down, my indicator goes, and if I turn it off, it will get brighter again. So that's that with the daytime running lights. So I'm very happy how it turned out. And yes, of course, the people that saw me last year on the reload land in Berlin, you may notice that now it dims. Back then I did not install this control unit and my daytime running lights was on all the time. Not quite conforming with German regulations. Okay, next thing is one of the important things. How is my new DC to DC converter holding up? As you know, I have replaced it because my first or stock DC to DC converter went bad and I replaced it with a different make and brand. So the DC to DC converter is holding up fine. I haven't had any problems since installing it. I would even say it's even holding up better. So I don't have any kind of voltage fluctuations. It's all in all, it's going fine. The only thing that is important to remember is this DC to DC converter can only provide 450 watts of power, and the stock one could actually provide 500 watts. That's important because these generations or the newer generations of Zeros have ABS, and the ABS pump will draw quite a lot of current. In my case, that's not a problem because I went full LED, so I have a standard stock rear LED. I have now a LED headlight and LED indicators and all that stuff. So I don't draw that much power, even if I have everything on. So I'll be fine using also the ABS pump in an emergency with this a little bit weaker DC to DC converter. But that's a thing to remember if you plan on replacing your own DC to DC converter. So next thing is the charger. Yes, I know, I wanted to give little updates on that. Well, the project is more or less done. It's working flawlessly, more or less. But I will show you some pictures. So last year, as I already said, I was in Berlin visiting the Reload Land Festival, a festival about electric motorcycles. So you can see new kinds of motorcycles, and also you had we had a ride together throughout Berlin. And I went there, of course, with my Zero, and I didn't take it on a trailer there. I rode it there by myself. It was a distance of approximately 330 to 350 kilometers from where I live to Berlin. And it was last summer in June. No, it's July. It was July. And the weather back then was quite hot, so we had approximately 35 degrees to 40 degrees. And I had to recharge on that journey only once. And the charging duration was approximately, let's say, 40-50 minutes from 20% to almost full. I will also show a little picture where I was charging. Oh, I'm sorry, it was I charged twice, just because I was unsure if I would make the last few kilometers in Berlin. So I had to charge twice, and I will show now a picture from my second charging stop that was right in Berlin. And I will also show you a screenshot or a photo of the screen of the charging station, where you can see that the Zero did actually pull approximately 10.8 kilowatts. Well, but that goes without saying, everything worked fine. The only thing towards the charger that I did actually change is I replaced the cover of my DC splice box, so the box down inside the charger that combines all three chargers, and goes out to the contacts of the SEFCON controller. There is a reason for that, because I also installed at this place, or in this place, the main fuse for the chargers, the 100 ampere fuse, and in the current state I had to remove the whole cover and to replace the fuse, and that was not that elegant. So I did a version 1.1 of the DC splice box cover, and now I have a separate cover just for the fuse, so that if I even have to replace the fuse, I don't have to take everything apart. And that's the first thing I already did, and now there's something that I am currently in the process of doing. And it's important to mention, a very good friend of mine is helping me with that, because I'm not that good at programming, or let's say I don't even know how to program, that's more accurate. And we are currently in the process of developing a, let's say, second generation charge controller. So if you remember, this unit is from, or this charging setup is from the company Otten here in Germany, and they also provide a charge controller. It's a very good system. It's been working flawlessly, but there's one big problem. This charge controller only looks for what the charging station wants and needs. It doesn't care about the battery or the Zero in general. So that means if the charging station says you can pull whatever you want, this charging setup will pull whatever it wants, even if the battery can't take it. And I had my fair share of some problems with that. So when I had the system installed first, I had also the software bug that the Zero thought it had less capacity. And that meant that the maximum charging current was below 100 amps. And the charging setup itself could push more than, or approximately 100 amps. In the end, that actually made the Zero go into emergency shutdown, and the BMS opened the main contactor under a load of approximately 100 amps, and that ain't so good. So the process I'm in with my friend right now is we are developing a second generation charge controller that will actually take into account what can the battery take. So temperatures, what's the maximum charging current, all that stuff. Also what we will include is, currently you need an ICCB, or it's called ICCU, so you need a charge controller like a charging station to actually get the system to charge. That means if you're in a hassle and you only have a standard wall outlet, you can't charge. You need the communication from the charging station. And what we want to do is to also include a standard wall outlet plug that doesn't need any communication, so that our charging system will actually recognize that you have just plugged in a standard wall outlet, and that it will automatically reduce the charging speed so you don't overload your circuit. That's that. What's next? Yes, the battery in general. So my Zero is a 2016 generation Zero DSR. So my battery is, or the motorcycle overall, is approximately 7 years old by now. And zero problems. I didn't have to replace the belt. It's holding up very good. I didn't have to do anything about the drivetrain. The only thing I did just for fun, so to speak, is to commission the motor. So to actually align the motor encoder, that the phase control of the converter or the inverter is still on point. The battery itself, that's the next point, is also fine. I don't see any large degradation of the battery. I still have more or less the same capacity as I had a few years ago. So all in all, I'm very happy with how it's going. And yes, the belt, I have it here on my list, like I already said, is still holding up. It's my first belt. And I'm currently at, what's the odometer say? 17,000 kilometers. Well, I know to all of you out there that use your Zero daily, that is nothing, I know, and your Zero also is holding up fine, I guess. But that's the current state, my belt is still fine. Yes, and there are some new things, like I just said. I will redo the charge controller with a very good friend of mine, so that we have a more elegant charging solution. Also that you can, so let's talk about the main features. Like I said, it will also take into account what the battery wants, or it will prioritize what the battery wants and not what the charging station wants. Secondly, we will implement the opportunity that you can use a standard wall outlet without any kind of communication, and that the bike will still charge. Thirdly, we will probably have a way to implement a 80% charge limit, so that you can set a limit. Let's say you want to plug in your Zero, but you don't want it to go to 100% all the way. That we somehow get it to work like a seamless integration, that you can easily set a charge limit for your Zero. And that's it for this new charging controller. And last but not least, there is an announcement. Yes, I already did the charging setup here on my Zero DSR. And as you know, the second generations of Zeros, like the SDS platform and the FX platform, they don't really have changed. And that also goes for the FX, FXS and FXE models. They all basically feature the same chassis. And my friend is currently riding an FXE, and he is not very pleased with the charging speeds he gets. That means, I'm very cautious to say that, but we're also in the process of developing a fast charging setup for the FX model line. Just some key facts to sum it up a bit. We are looking to get more than 3 kilowatts of charging speed, and we also want to integrate it seamlessly into the bike, so that you don't have to hassle around with chargers installing, plugging in at the charging station. You just pull up to the charging station, plug in, and there you go with your charge. But this is a longer process, like it was with my Zero here, but I will keep you informed about it. Well, that's it for now. If you have any more questions, please let me know in the comments below. And I will see you in the, well, let's say, future.